In our number 10 spot today we have Pluto's Gate. This is a site that is located in what was once the ancient city of Hierapolis, which resides in what is now Turkey. This site was once dedicated to the Roman god of death Pluto, and an ancient historian named Strabo, who once went to this location, said that, quote, "Any animal that passes inside meets instant death. I threw in sparrows and they immediately breathed their last and fell." So yeah, maybe it's not really an inviting place exactly. Turns out there's more to this than just myth, however. Scientists measured the CO2 concentration at this site and discovered that during the day this place might be fine, but during the night the CO2 becomes heavier than air and pools at the bottom, which forms this sort of deadly lake. The reason it's fine during the daytime is because the sun is able to dissipate the gas. It is said that at dawn the CO2 concentration that was measured 40 centimeters above the floor was at 35%, which would be enough to take a life within minutes. In our number 9 spot today we have the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Back in 1986 there was the tragic event of the accidental nuclear meltdown at the Chernobyl nuclear plant. The aftermath of this disaster took many lives, and it also rendered the area unsafe for years to come. While some of the areas surrounding the disaster are relatively safe now, there is still an area called the Chernobyl exclusion zone, which is strictly forbidden because of the radioactive contamination. You would think that the threat of a horrible death, or at least some painful side effects, might be enough to keep people out, but that is not the case. Throughout the years, people have continually tried to sneak into this zone to catch a glimpse at what exactly it holds.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Stairway to Heaven. The Stairway to Heaven, or the Haiku Stairs, is a very steep hiking trail that was closed in 1987. It was closed because of lack of maintenance of the trail, and it was deemed unsafe. It's considered one of Hawaii's most dangerous trails, but that didn't stop 18-year-old Dalen Pua from hiking out there. On February 27, 2015, Dalen went out for a hike. He had previously told his grandmother, who he was visiting, that he wanted to do so, but she warned him against it. Also, you can get charged if you do trespass. But that didn't deter Dalen. On that day, he told his grandma he was going out for a hike, but she didn't think he would dare to go there. She was wrong. The last time anyone saw him was around 11 a.m. when he sent a photo to his family of him at that location. He never returned home. Of course, there are a number of theories as to what happened to him. Maybe he fell while on the hike, since the area is dangerous. But then again, his body or bones were never found. Another theory is that he was kidnapped or killed by someone. In the photo he sent to his family, it said you can see a man lurking in the foliage. Was this his killer? Sadly, we might never solve this case. Coming in at number 9, we have Snake Island. With a name like that, who would even want to visit it? And as you probably guessed, it is covered in snakes. This island is apparently home to around 4,000 snakes, most of them being golden lancehead vipers, aka one of the deadliest serpents in the world. It's said that this type of viper can grow up to 18 inches long, and it's so poisonous that one bite can kill you within an hour. As a result, the Brazilian government has banned anyone from ever going there. If you do, well, chances are you won't make it back alive. Legend goes that a fisherman arrived at the island in search of bananas, but was found days later in his boat, dead in a pool of his own blood. Then from 1909 to the 1920s, a family lived on the island to run the lighthouse. But according to another legend, the entire family was found dead after a group of snakes came into their home and attacked them. So like I said before, you don't ever want to go to this island. Moving on to number 8, we have Area 51. Of course this had to be on the list. Area 51 is a top secret government facility that is illegal for the public to visit. Anyone that does try to trespass can be charged, arrested, or even shot to death. This is what happened to a man in 2019. On January 28th, the man attempted to get into Area 51. He was then chased down by some cars for 8 miles. When he got out of his car, he was shot dead. Another case would be the 2 YouTubers that were arrested in September of 2019 after they tried to sneak into Area 51 and were caught recording the premise. I know we all want to know what really goes on in there, like if they got aliens or whatnot, but curiosity killed the cat. Just saying. In our 7th spot, we have the Devil's Hole. With a name like that, maybe it's best you don't visit it. So the Devil's Hole is located in a national wildlife refuge in Nevada. You can tour the area, but access to the Devil's Hole itself is off limits. They have a sign and a fence guarding the area, and the sign reads as so: "Due to the scientific importance of this area and its fragile nature, unauthorized entry is prohibited." Yes, they want to protect the ecosystem, but also it is so dangerous to enter there. So Devil's Hole is like a little hole of water. When you dive in, it's filled with complex underwater caverns. Back in 1965, one night a group of 4 friends decided to hop the fence and explore the Devil's Hole. It was Paul, David, Bill, and Jack. Jack was on the lookout while the 3 dove in, but Paul never resurfaced. As a result, David and Bill both went back under to look for him, but then David never resurfaced. To this day, their bodies have never been found. Moving on to number 6, we have Ramree Island. Tourists are banned from ever visiting this island, because chances are your vacation will take a deadly turn if you decide to go there. This island is home to thousands of saltwater crocodiles, and they weigh around 2,000 pounds. Even the small ones pose a threat to humans. They have the capability of killing someone twice their size. On top of that, they are highly aggressive and will attack anyone that enters their habitat. In fact, the most number of fatalities in a crocodile attack took place at Ramree Island. In 1945, British soldiers drove the Japanese fighters off the main area of the island, forcing them to flee into the marshy area surrounding the island. One problem: those marshes were filled with hungry crocodiles. As a result, 500 soldiers were killed by these crocodiles. So yeah, maybe don't go to this island unless you want to be crocodile dinner. And of course, there's a number of stories of tourists going to this island and then being attacked and killed by these beasts. We're now at our 5th.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the Lascaux Cave. This cave is located in France, and it got itself the title of being a UNESCO World Heritage Site after its discovery in 1940 due to the incredible prehistoric paintings that can be seen on the walls. Of course, this became a popular tourist destination, and people were jumping at the chance to see these works of art completed by the early humans. But as it turns out, breathing is not very good for the art. The carbon monoxide that visitors were expelling was beginning to cause damage to these cave paintings, and of course, once they're gone, there's nothing that we can do to get them back. This led to the site being closed to the public in 1963. Now the only people allowed in are researchers and preservationists who work to make sure that the art stays for as long as possible. In our number 9 spot today, we have Lake Nyos. So this isn't a place that is necessarily illegal to visit, but it definitely is a place that you should only live or even really visit at your own risk. Lake Nyos is located in Cameroon, and it is different from any regular old lake because of the volcanic crater that it sits in. The magma floor releases carbon dioxide in both the water and the surrounding air, making it a less than ideal place to live and breathe. Usually the CO2 just dissipates into the air, mostly harmlessly, but in 1986 there was a limnic eruption that caused a catastrophe. A limnic eruption is very rare, but it's what happens when dissolved carbon dioxide suddenly erupts from lake waters, which then goes on to form a gas cloud. This resulting gas cloud is extremely dangerous and is capable of displacing the oxygen in the area, which of course is lethal to any living thing, which is exactly what happened in 1986. This limnic eruption caused a noxious cloud of more than 1 million tons of CO2. This ended up taking the lives of 1,700 people in the area, as well as 3,500 livestock, which made it the first known large-scale asphyxiation caused by a natural event. Despite the threat of another eruption, as well as the lake's weakening walls that could result in a massive flood, people have resettled the area around the lake. I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't risk it, which makes me wonder why these people chose to. I'm sure there's gotta be some reason though. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Svalbard Seed Vault. Deep within a mountain that sits in between Norway and the North Pole sits this vault that is more than 320 feet inside. This vault holds a massive collection of seeds. Like, we're talking about 890,000 different preserved seed samples from nearly every country in the world. The vault that holds these seeds is made to withstand both man-made and natural disasters, and the seeds inside are meant to be kept safe, so in the case case of some sort of huge disaster, the seeds kept safe inside would ensure the continuation of a wide variety of really diverse food options. The door to this vault is only opened a few times a year, and just a few people are allowed inside in order to deliver seeds to the shelves. In our number 7 spot today, we have St. Kilda. St. Kilda is the most remote settlement of the British Isles, and it is so isolated that it is often cut off by storms for weeks and sometimes even months at one time. That is most likely the reason as to why the previous inhabitants had developed a culture, economy, and government that was completely separate and different to their English rulers. Unfortunately, between missionaries and officials coming to the island in an attempt to change their way of life that was working perfectly fine for them, their sources of income dwindling, births not being able to keep up with the death rate, and the emigration rate combined, as well as the inevitable disease-ridden tourists coming to their island for whatever reason, things for those who once lived on the island changed drastically, and it was decided that they would evacuate this island in 1930. Since then, people have tried to resettle the island, but none have permanently remained, likely because of the isolation. In our number 6 spot today, we have Surtsey Island. This island was born in 1963, and by that I mean it emerged from the sea in that year just off of the coast of Iceland after 4 years of being formed by an undersea volcano. A brand new island. What could we possibly do with that? While I'm sure humans could find a million and one ways to ruin it, surprisingly we decided not to do that at all. Instead, this island was protected in order to allow scientists to study how new ecosystems form and what happens when there's really no human involvement in that. This means that those who are permitted to go to the island have some very strict rules to adhere to, and it's not like just anyone is allowed to go. I mean, I couldn't go, you probably couldn't go. Well, I don't want to make that assumption, I don't know. Maybe you're a scientist. One of these rules is that there are no seeds allowed on the island, and no using the facilities either. The last rule is because one day when scientists found a tomato growing on the island, they were confused as to how. Turns out somebody had gone number 2 not too long before, and thus a new poop tomato was grown from the ground. Kinda gross, kinda cool, not gonna lie. In our number 5 spot today, we have Centralia. Located in Pennsylvania, this town is often referred to as one of the gateways to hell. That is due to the fire that spread in an underground coal mine underneath the town in 1962. Despite the years it's been, the fire still blazes underground, which causes the smoke and poisonous gases to rise up from the ground, not only causing an eerie appearance, but also a very serious health hazard. The temperatures can be so hot in areas that one guy's backyard was measured at 626 degrees Fahrenheit. Sometimes the fire will also burn through supports underground, which in the end turns into a sinkhole. This has caused pets, wildlife, and residents to unsuspectingly get swallowed up into the hole. In 1984, the US government ordered a total evacuation of the town, but a handful of residents refused to leave and even went to court over the right to stay in the town for as long as they live. In our number 4 spot today, we have Pine Gap. This location is in Australia, and it is a heavily guarded and top secret facility. It is said that Pine Gap is actually a joint defense facility between the Australian and the United States governments. It is said that it is operated by both the CIA and NSA, that it is strictly off limits to anyone not involved or given high security clearance. Apparently, at first, this place was said to be a space research center, but now it has become abundantly clear that it is actually used to support the United States in both intelligence as well as military activities. If someone decided to trespass into this top secret area, it would undoubtedly put them in a whole world of trouble, kinda like an Area 51 deal. In our number 3 spot today, we have La Oroya. Located in Peru, this town has a population of 30,000 people, despite the metal smelter contamination that has been seen since 1922. The smelter closed in 2009 after the company that ran it declared bankruptcy, but here's how that happened in the first place. The American-owned company ran out of money because they had to fund the environmental cleanup and the anti-pollution measures. Seems like maybe they should have chosen a different path. Seems like it didn't pay off to pollute someone else's air. I don't know. I guess they forgot that there's consequences for actions. It still remains as one of the most polluted areas in the entire world, and the toxic metals have gone on to infect the water, the soil, and the air. While it is completely unsafe to live there, people still do, and sadly they suffer the extreme adverse effects of it. In our number 2 spot today, we have Mezgor. This is a location in Russia that finds its home in the Ural Mountains. This little town is top secret and is completely forbidden to any kind of visitor. This is said to be because the town is apparently home to Russia's nuclear missiles, and the rules are so strict that people aren't even allowed near the town or its vicinity. There are also rumors that suggest that this town contains Mount Yamantau, and that inside this mountain there is the Russian government's extensive bunker, making this just another reason why this town is completely cut off to anyone who isn't a very high-ranking official. In our number 1 spot today we have Wittenoom. This place in Australia is the home to a former blue asbestos mine, which is exactly what makes it one of the most contaminated places in the country. I mean this literally. The roads were paved with asbestos, even after the mine shut down in 1966. While this city was once the home to 20,000 residents, the population dropped significantly after the deaths of 300 former mine workers from mesothelioma. Apparently it was decided that it would be too expensive to clean up the town, so instead the government just declared it unfit to inhabit and took it off the maps. While most people have since left the town, it is said that 3 residents refused to leave and still remain in the almost completely abandoned town.
Coming up in our number 10 spot, we have the Church of Satan. Well, if you grew up watching any and all Hollywood movies, then you probably are with me when I say maybe it's a good idea that these churches are banned. But despite how creepy and scary Hollywood has made these churches to be, the church states that they are not depicted in an accurate light. The Church of Satan is a church that was founded by Anton LaVey. The church does not believe in worshiping a literal, powerful, supernatural Satan. In fact, they reject people that believe in this, and they refer to themselves as skeptical atheists, people who question everything. They describe their church as an underground cell system of individuals who share the basis of our philosophy, they say. The Church of Satan isn't banned everywhere. In fact, it is quite strong in the USA. But in Canada, for example, it has been banned. But like many banned religions or banned practices for centuries and centuries, people always find a way to still do whatever they want. In our number 9 spot, we have the Okinoshima, considered a place of worship. Okinoshima is actually a forbidden island that is considered sacred land. Forbidden to all women, that is. Yeah, we're in the 21st century, but yep, there's still some places we can't go to. Wild. Only priests, researchers, military, and the media are allowed on the island. Interesting combination. Apparently no one is allowed to speak of anything they see on the island. It is that secretive. You would think that they maybe wouldn't want to invite the media to the island then, but people are strange. The island is off the coast of Munakata in Japan. The islanders are said to worship the kami, which are spirits that are venerated in the religion of Shinto. It has several spiritual traditions, including a ritual purification. This must be performed by undressing and bathing in the ocean. Archaeological evidence suggests that religious rituals have been performed there since the 4th century. So interesting. Too bad I could never go there because the idea of getting to see such a spiritual place is such an exciting thought. In our number 8 spot, we have Christianity in China. It is not unknown that China operates under a communist regime, so it will probably not surprise you to hear that in 2014, crosses on Christian places of worship were being taken down and the people were discouraged to not go there. Of course the people did anyway, and they even held an overnight vigil before the police arrived. Apparently in 2014, in the town of Wenzhou at the Longgang Township Gratitude Church, the public security officials took down the 10-foot crucifix above the church. The congregates didn't resist this action, but of course it must be extremely hard for them to know that their own people will not support their right to worship. This has happened in many towns in China over many years, and as of today, I wonder if they are still against Christianity, or more specifically, the cross symbol. If there's anyone watching who knows the answer, I would love to know in the comment section below. In our number 7 spot, we have Eritrea. Often referred to as Africa's North Korea, Eritrea has some pretty harsh viewpoints when it comes to Christianity. It is said that its president, Afwerki, has overseen a volatile authoritarian regime that rests on human rights violations. Christians that are not a part of state-approved churches are actually considered a threat to the country and an agent of the West. Huh. I've heard this so many times before. Perhaps there is something us Westerners are missing that everyone else sees. What do we believe in that is such a threat to a whole society? What do we know that makes us a threat? In the summer months of 2019, over 150 Christians were arrested. Over 70 prisoners were being held in a type of prison where they are sent to an underground tunnel where they are forced to work and dig. Christians in this country have been fleeing over the last few years due to the violence and imprisonment. In our number 6 spot, we have St. Mary the Virgin, Clophill England. Not so much banned as it is abandoned, but considering the spookiness that seems to go on at this church, I'm banning you from ever going to check it out. Unless you're a ghost whisperer. Research purposes are allowed. Just joking, go at your own risk. This church is extremely old, being built in 1350. The locals of the town believe the church to be haunted by the devil, as the altar is facing the southern direction, which is commonly known as a symbol of hell. On another note though, people have reported ghost hauntings and satanic presence in the church, so perhaps it is the entrance to hell. Regardless, people are told to be weary of the church, but I'm sure teenagers still go there and hold seances. I would. In our number 5 spot, we have the Church of Mary of Zion. This isn't a church that is fully banned, but it does have a part of it that has been forbidden for centuries. This is a church that claims to hold the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant, or otherwise known as the Ark of God, is a very sacred relic of the Israelites. The area that it is being held in is banned and forbidden to any regular person. It's apparently kept in this church in the city of Axum, but there have been rumors that it was moved. Regardless, it is extremely guarded, and the monks that guard the treasure have been trained to kill with their bare hands. Okay, yeah, that's terrifying. They just sound like FBI agents. I bet they are, just dressed as monks. Anyways, the secrecy around the object has made it hard for archaeologists to confirm that it is indeed real. Apparently though, a historian once said that after viewing it, they concluded that it was a replica. But I wonder how much of that is real and how much of that is just to try to get people off the trail of wanting to see it. I doubt it would be highly protected if it wasn't real. Coming up at our number 4 spot, we have the Oradour Church in France. This is a church that has a very deadly past, and so be cautious if you go there. You have been warned. So much loss of life took place in this church that it is believed to be haunted, and many warned to not go near it for that reason. The town experienced a very deadly massacre in World War II, and specifically this church took a hit. A horrific tragedy that even though it's been many years later, the energy probably still lingers. So I ban you from going there, unless it's for educational reasons once again, then fair enough. But man, there are definitely ghosts, and I would not want someone to feel the sadness of wars past. The site is still the way that it was after this horrific day, but apparently there's talk that a new church will be built on the grounds. A lovely thought, but I bet you it won't get rid of the ghosts. In our number 3 spot, we have King James VI and First. Known as King James VI, King of Scots, and King James I of England and Ireland, he ruled from 1603 to 1625. England and Scotland were considered sovereign states, and yet he ruled both of them. Being the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, and just being a king in general, you can imagine the pressure that was put on him. He came across many religious challenges in his reign, and it was his decisions that led to a wave of anti-Catholicism. He might have been baptized Catholic, but he eventually became Presbyterian and then leaned Anglican during his reign. He enforced strict penalties to practicing Catholics, despite the fact that he said he would allow them to practice as long as they lay low and be quiet about it. He put policies in place that aimed at only punishing a few Catholics instead of creating massive bloodshed, with the goal to hopefully motivate practitioners to leave the country. People still practiced in private though, including one of James's friends, the first Earl of Northampton, Henry Howard. In our number 2 spot, we have the Vatican Archives. Okay, not a banned church per se, but a banned church library, filled with secrets, lies, and church documents for centuries. Arguably a church of knowledge than just a regular worship church, but I'm sure the viewers that actually get to step inside to read its books quite definitely worship the books. At least I would. This is a place that is completely banned to the everyday public. Formed in 1475, but it is believed to possibly be older. Only scholars in higher ranks within the church can enter, and the scholars must show documentation of their qualifications and research needs. People have tried to break in over the years, but the archives are heavily guarded, and there has been no successful break-ins in a long time. People speculate that the archives hold proof of aliens being present on our planet, but I bet you they have way more interesting facts than that tucked away in their shelves. Probably proof of time travel. Arguably cooler than aliens? Would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. In our number 1 spot, we have the 1535 ban on Catholic churches. As a direct response from wanting to divorce his wife, but not being allowed to, King Henry VIII of England decided to declare himself to be the only supreme head on earth of the Church of England in place of the Pope. Talk about ego. Anybody that continued to stay devoted to the Catholic Church was executed and considered martyrs to the faith. Any act of allegiance was considered treason. It wasn't until after his passing that his daughter, Queen Mary I, decided to reinstate Catholicism as England's state religion, only to have her actions reversed by Queen Elizabeth I, who would physically punish anyone who didn't attend Anglican church services, and of course, there were still a fair few that still did.
In our number 8 spot today, we have Zone Rouge. This area, also referred to as the Red Zone, is an area of France that is one of the most restricted on Earth. Located in northeastern France, it is said that this chain of uninhabited areas was completely destroyed after the events of the First World War. This area contains a mass amount of both human and animal remains, along with way too many unexploded weapons that have gone on to contaminate the surrounding water and land. This has led to the French government prohibiting any kind of activity in the areas that includes any sort of agricultural or settlement. I mean, I wouldn't particularly want to risk it with an undetonated explosive, so it completely makes sense why this area would be restricted. In our number 7 spot today, we have Snake Island. This island is located in Brazil and is one of the most dangerous in the entire world, and that is because it is absolutely filled to the brim with snakes. It is thought that Snake Island came to be when the snakes got trapped as a result of the rising sea levels, which disconnected this island from the mainland. The reason people aren't allowed to visit is obviously to protect the humans who want to go, but also to protect the snakes that live here, as some of them aren't seen anywhere else in the world, likely because of the lack of human interference. There's a critically endangered species of snake called a golden lancehead, and on this island there are about 4,000 of them, which is critical to the species being able to continue on. As of now, only a few select researchers and the Brazilian Navy are permitted to go to the island. In our number 6 spot today, we have Area 51. This is probably one of the most famous of all of the prohibited places, and that is likely because of just how many stories and conspiracy theories are surrounding it. Area 51 is a US military installation that the government insisted didn't exist until 2013. The area is said to mainly be used as a testing site by the CIA and the US Air Force because of its remote location 100 miles north of Las Vegas, but people don't buy it. People seriously believe that this site could be holding things like crashed UFOs, actual aliens, mermaids, you know, conspiracy theory stuff. At the end of the day, whether it's aliens or testing technology, the stuff that they are doing there is super secret, and there's a reason it's so protected. That hasn't stopped many people from trying to go there over the years, however. I mean, remember a couple years back when people wanted to storm it? Yeah. Good luck. In our number 5 spot today, we have Mount Omine. This mountain is the home of the Yamabushi monks, and it is famous for its 3 tests of courage. So, not everyone is banned from this place, but women sure are. The ban on women was placed in order to help remove thoughts of temptations from the monks as they practiced their strict lifestyle. Here's the thing with this rule though. There have been many females who have still gone here. They refer to the ban as a more voluntary situation. Both the temple and the local community call it a request rather than a rule or a law, and the request is in order to respect their tradition, as well as, of course, like I mentioned before, to help them. In our number 4 spot today, we have Morgan Island. This is a place that is also referred to as Monkey Island, and this is due to the colony of about 4,000 rhesus monkeys who call this place home. The thing is though, the monkeys aren't originally from this South Carolina island, they were actually relocated here from Puerto Rico. Basically, these monkeys were living in a sort of research center before moving to this island, but it was becoming overpopulated, and some of the monkeys who carried infectious diseases were escaping, which posed quite a health and safety risk. This is when South Carolina stepped in and offered this uninhabited island as a place for these monkeys to go and continue to be researched. There are now laws that prohibit anyone from the island for both yours as well as the monkeys' safety. In our number 3 spot today, we have Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is a privately owned campsite in Monterey in California, and is the home to the wealthy and exclusive Bohemian Club. This club is only for some exclusive groups of men, despite the few dire attempts at including women. Every year there is a 2-week-long retreat that the club hosts on the private grounds, and while there have been 4 women who have been invited to the club as honorary members, the women are never invited to the Grove. Because of this weird ban and just the entire super strange nature of this whole ordeal, both the club and the Grove are part of many conspiracy theories. There has been no shortage of outsiders trying to sneak into the Grove to see what the heck is going on there and to see if they can get to the bottom of what this secretive club is really hiding. To be honest, there's definitely something sketchy going on with this whole thing, because it really just does give off like the weirdest vibes. They also have this weird club motto that says, quote, "Weaving spiders come not here." I'm not sure what that means, but it definitely sounds weird. Just a bunch of guys hanging out and no one else is allowed. I don't know, it's weird. Bohemian Grove has entered the chat. They're mad at me. In our number 2 spot today we have Metro 2. During the time where Stalin was in power, it is said that he instructed that an underground secret transport system would be built, known as Metro 2. This mysterious underground system is said to connect different administrative institutions, and it's even rumored that it contains apartments and different technical rooms. It's sort of like a secret escape tunnel for high-level officials. Of course, it's completely blocked off to outsiders or the general public, and while the Moscow Metro administration denies that these tunnels even exist, there was an urban exploration group back in 1994 that claimed to have found the entrance. At this point in time, the existence of only one of the rumored 4 lines has been confirmed, and it is called D6. In our number 1 spot today we have the Fukushima exclusion zone. Back in 2011 there was the Fukushima nuclear disaster which struck Japan. Because of this horrible incident, residents located within 18 miles of the plant were urged to evacuate, similar to the Chernobyl nuclear disaster we talked about before. In fact, this meltdown and Chernobyl's are the only 2 events to receive a level 7 event classification on the International Nuclear Event Scale. Because of this extreme radiation contamination, no one is allowed to enter the premises. Of course, I can't see why anyone would want to, but there are people who want to take the risk. This includes a 27-year-old photographer who decided to illegally sneak into the Fukushima exclusion zone. He explained that it looked like a real-life version of Fallout.
And halfway mark with Bouvet Island. Now here's the thing with Bouvet Island. You can visit it, but it would be a death wish if you did. Bouvet Island is extremely isolated and is almost completely covered by a glacier. Its nearest inhabited land is 1,600 miles away. One way to get there is by boat, but it would take very long and you would be facing extreme weather conditions while doing so. As a result, most expeditions are done by helicopter. Even then, if the weather suddenly changes, you're basically screwed because the island is so remote and far away from other pieces of land. But in 1964, a lifeboat was found abandoned at this island. How did it get there? How could this little boat survive crossing the Southern Ocean? It's a mystery that still baffles many. But also, where did the passengers of the boat go, if they had any? We got no clue, just a couple of theories. And at number 4 we have Vortex Spring. Vortex Spring is known for having pretty complex diving caves, but only those that have a diving certificate or are accompanied by an experienced diver can go there by themselves. In the 1980s, 13 people died in the vortex. There's one area in the underwater caves that are considered so deadly that it's blocked off, and people are prohibited from entering there. It's got this creepy warning sign with the Grim Reaper, and it's often locked with a gate. It's just far too easy for people to get lost and drown in there. But that didn't stop Ben McDaniel. On August 18, 2010, Ben was seen entering the water near the caves and was never seen again. This case is quite strange, like there's a lot of pieces to it. Some say he faked his death because he owed the IRS a lot of money, and also he had a failed marriage, so maybe this was his way of starting over. Or Ben really did get lost in the caves and drowned, but his gear or body have never been found. In our 3rd spot, we have the Bolton Strid. The Strid near Bolton Abbey is said to be the most dangerous stretch of water in the world. Just by looking at it, you wouldn't even think it's dangerous. I mean, the current isn't even that fast, but below the water surface are strong undercurrents that will toss you back and forth against the sharp, jagged rocks until you die. It's also fairly deep and it could just suck you down until you drown. In fact, it has a 100% fatality rate. Everyone that has gone or fallen in have never made it out alive. Their bodies also have never been found. There are a number of stories of people trying to leap across the river only to slip and fall in. In one case, there was a newlywed couple visiting the Strid. However, upon trying to cross the strid, the bride fell in, and the groom fell in also trying to save her. As a result, there are a number of warning signs all around the area trying to warn people of the strid's dangers. But of course, a lot of people ignore the signs since the strid is so deceiving and looks pretty safe. In our second spot, we have North Sentinel Island. The reason why you can't visit this island is because it is home to a tribe that will kill anyone who dares to intrude on their land. They live their own life completely isolated from the rest of the world. In fact, they still live a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. But a man named John Allen believed that with the power of God, he would be able to convert them to Christianity and help them. He believed that this island was Satan's last stronghold on Earth. So in November of 2018, he headed out to the island. Now, the people that took him there knew of the dangers and really didn't want to, but he was so insistent that they finally gave in. In fact, they were later arrested for doing so. John's first attempt at making contact with them didn't go as planned. As soon as he stepped foot on the island, several men came charging at him, firing arrows. So he fled. But on November 16th, he tried again. He got a fisherman to drop him off alone, and that was the last time anyone had ever seen him. When people went back there for him, they saw the tribe members dragging his dead body with a rope. And in our number one spot, we have the secret cave. It was the evening of August 17th, 2005, and 5 friends were having dinner together. They were Scott McDonald, J. Blake Donner, Jennifer Lynn Galbraith, Ariel Singer, and Stephen Hunley. While eating, the group got to talking about this secret cave, which was a legend where they were from. It's all about this cool secret cave slash hangout spot. Rumor has it that's where human sacrifices were made, etc. But of course, no one thought it was a real cave. That's when Jennifer said that it was real and that she had been there before. The friends, not really believing her, asked her to bring them there. And so they did. So basically, up in the mountains by Brigham Young University, there was this small opening to a cave. The entrance was in the shape of a Y. But in order to get to the secret hangout spot, Jennifer told them they would have to dive down one area through this underwater tunnel to the other side, where there was an air pocket. The tunnel was 15 feet, and the gap they would have to swim through was 20 inches wide. So it was just enough for people to squeeze through. On top of that, someone had put a rope in the water so you could just pull yourself underwater with. So that's what the 4 of the friends did. Stephen Hunley decided to stay back. He waited for the group for about an hour, then he decided to call for help. And when police arrived, they were horrified at what they saw. So it seems like the group of friends successfully managed to get to the other side, but they couldn't make it back. The police ended up pumping out the water so that they could enter. And that's when they found all 4 of the friends' bodies stacked up against each other. It seems as if the person leading, who was Jennifer, got stuck on the way out and then she drowned. It would then be impossible to swim over her. So then the second person that went swimming was stopped at Jen's body, and they couldn't get back out because then the third person was coming in. So everyone was just blocked in this small tunnel. Slowly but surely, all of them drowned in this small dark cave. For safety reasons, this cave is no longer accessible. Starting off this countdown, we have the abandoned building. Abandoned buildings are urban explorers' playgrounds, except you have to be extra careful. There's a reason why some of these buildings are abandoned to begin with, and over the years have been subjected to structural failure. In January of 2019, a 21-year-old man and his friends went to explore an abandoned building in Detroit. Entry into the building was banned. Obviously, it was abandoned. In fact, it was getting ready to be demolished. That night, the group of friends decided to play hide and seek. He got separated from his group of friends and they couldn't find him. They decided to come back the next morning and continue to look for him. That's when they found his body on the first floor. Police concluded that he fell through an elevator shaft and to his death. He fell all the way from the 9th floor. That is absolutely terrifying. But before I go any further, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up because it really helps us out and I appreciate it. Moving on to number 9, we have Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is an island in the central Indian Ocean, part of the British Indian Ocean Territory. In 1966, the people on the island were employees as contract farmers, working on coconut plantations. But in 1968 to 1973, the farm workers were kicked off the island by the UK government, so that the US/UK military could have a joint base on the island. Now, it is off limits to everyone except official personnel, and it's highly guarded and secretive. In fact, some believe it was used by the CIA to torture prisoners. But since it's so closed off to us, we will never know what truly went on over there. Moving on to number 8, we have North Brother Island. North Brother Island is a 20-acre island located in New York City's East River. The island was once home to Riverside Hospital, which was built to quarantine people with smallpox. Since the island was so isolated from others, they thought it was perfect to house the sick there. All those who died there were stored in the island's morgue. Then in 1943, they used the hospital to house people with tuberculosis. From 1951, it served as a rehabilitation center for drug addicts. But by the 60s, it was abandoned. Now that island stays that way and is off limits to the public. The island is very dangerous to visit because the buildings are rotted and deteriorating. Access is forbidden unless you have proper authorization. In our 7th spot, we have the sewer system. So in July of 2018, 2 boys in the Northamptons decided to explore their town, which is fine. But they decided to get into the town's sewer system and explore from down below. I don't know what drew them in, that must have been super stinky. Now, Northampton sewer system is actually known to be quite complicated and referred to as caverns. So it's no shocker that they prohibit people from entering. And also not a shocker that this pair got lost down there. After being lost for several hours, they were rescued. Thankfully, the rescue team was able to locate their whereabouts and help them get out of the tunnels. Bad news is, they didn't smell the greatest after all this happened. Moving on to number 6, we have Edgewater Medical Center. This abandoned medical center in Chicago is a very popular spot to urban explorers. In fact, little fun fact, this is the place that both Hillary Clinton and serial killer John Wayne Gacy were born. Now, securing the building has always been a problem. No matter how many signs or barricades they put up, people will always find a way to get in. In fact, now they have security guards monitoring the area to prevent people from trespassing. But still, this doesn't ward off the curious-minded. One person that entered this banned location is urban explorer Mike Kinsk. He said he found blood samples, some labeled with serious infectious diseases. He also found several boxes of death records dating back to the 90s. There is apparently also personnel files, test results, x-rays, and more still inside the hospital. In fact, these files were said to be destroyed, but clearly they weren't. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Dulce Base. This one is the definition of creepy, just get ready for it. So the small town of Dulce in New Mexico is said to have a secret underground facility where they do a number of wacky experiments. The first claim of this base was back in the 1930s. From there, the rumors began to skyrocket. Now it's believed that there is a 7-story compound beneath the city, and that's where there are human-animal hybrids and human-alien hybrids. Yeah, it's crazy. This base has very tight security and is regarded as one of the top forbidden places in the world. In our 4th spot, we have Centralia. Ah, yes, this place is making its way back on another one of my lists. Centralia is an abandoned town located in Pennsylvania. It was once a populated town. However, a lot of residents were forced to leave due to unsafe living conditions. This all started after a coal fire ignited underground. This fire has been burning for almost 50 years, and it's predicted to continue for another 200 years. As a result of this fire, tons of sinkholes have formed, and hot smoke is released underground, and carbon monoxide has filled some of the residents' basements. In some parts of the town that are affected, it is said that the ground beneath them has reached up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, 400 degrees Celsius. But even that won't deter some people. In fact, 7 residents still live there. They refuse to move out of their home. But the US government has done their job to try and erase this city. They took away any signs directing people to this town, removed the town's zip code, and forced most of the residents out. But people still go there to explore, which isn't the best idea. In our 3rd spot, we have Gilman, Colorado. Located in southeastern Eagle County, Gilman was a beautiful town located on the edge of a cliff. But that wasn't the reason why this town was considered dangerous. Around 1984, the Environmental Protection Agency discovered hazardous levels of arsenic, cadmium, copper, lead, and zinc in the soil, surface, and groundwater of this area. It was so toxic that they demanded a full evacuation of this town. Now, if you visit the area, you will see tons of signs warning trespassers. The signs say things like hidden and visible dangers and risk of injury or death. So don't go there. In our second spot, we have the Doomsday Vault. I did not know this was a thing, but there is a Doomsday Vault located in Norway. This vault contains 309 samples of seeds from all over the world. So just in case of a huge disaster, people can get to this vault and still be able to rebuild society and, make food. These seeds are highly protected. Only a few people have access to this building. And they are only allowed to go inside on days when they are accepting new seeds. So don't mess around with this vault, okay? It's humanity's lifeline. And in our number one spot, we have Bangalore Fort, India. This next place is said to be the most haunted place in India. Back in the 17th century, it was once a thriving town, home to 10,000 people. But rumor has it, all residents deserted their homes overnight. Why? Because it's haunted. Duh. So there are two legends surrounding this place. Number one, there was a man named Madho Singh, and he was given permission to build this fort by the king under one condition. The fort never cast a shadow over his house. He said if this happened, then the city will perish. So this guy obeyed his command and made sure the fort never did. But Singh's successor ignored this and built the walls up higher. This cast a shadow over his house. And that's when the king's curse started. The second legend surrounds a princess named Ratnavati. Now, a man named Tantrik Singha fell in love with her beauty, but she kept refusing his love and advances over and over again. What she didn't know was that he was a magician of the dark arts. So he used a love potion on her by putting it in her perfume. But the princess wasn't dumb. She figured this out and then poured the potion over a huge boulder. This made the dude furious and he placed a curse on the town. And now it's still believed to be cursed/haunted. In fact, entry is banned for all foreigners. You need a special permit to get entry into this fort. And in no means can you ever be there before sunrise and after sunset. According to locals, 3 men decided to stay there after sundown. And things went south. One of the 3 guys fell into a deep well. Thankfully, he was rescued, but on their way to the hospital, all 3 of them got crushed in a freaky road accident and they died. Could this be the fort's curse?
In our number 10 spot today, we have Pluto's Gate. This is a site that is located in what was once the ancient city of Hierapolis, which resides in what is now Turkey. This site was once dedicated to the Roman god of death, Pluto, and an ancient historian named Strabo, who once went to this location, said that, quote, "Any animal that passes inside meets instant death. I threw in sparrows and they immediately breathed their last and fell." So, yeah. Maybe it's not really an inviting place exactly. Turns out there's more to this than just myth, however. Scientists measured the CO2 concentration at this site and discovered that during the day, this place might be fine, but during the night, the CO2 becomes heavier than air and pools at the bottom, which forms this sort of deadly lake. The reason it's fine during the daytime is because the sun is able to dissipate the gas. It is said that at dawn, the CO2 concentration that was measured 40 centimeters above the floor was at 35%, which would be enough to take a life within minutes. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Back in 1986, there was the tragic event of the accidental nuclear meltdown at the Chernobyl nuclear plant. The aftermath of this disaster took many lives, and it also rendered the area unsafe for years to come. While some of the areas surrounding the disaster are relatively safe now, there is still an area called the Chernobyl exclusion zone, which is strictly forbidden because of the radioactive contamination. You would think that the threat of a horrible preventable death or at least some painful side effects might be enough to keep people out, but that is not the case. Throughout the years, people have continually tried to sneak into this zone to catch a glimpse at what exactly it holds. In our number 8 spot today we have Zone Rouge. This area, also referred to as the Red Zone, is an area of France that is one of the most restricted on Earth. Located in northeastern France, it is said that this chain of uninhabited areas was completely destroyed after the events of the First World War. This area contains a mass amount of both human and animal remains, along with way too many unexploded weapons that have gone on to contaminate the surrounding water and land. This has led to the French government prohibiting any kind of activity in the areas that includes any sort of agricultural or settlement. I mean, I wouldn't particularly want to risk it with an undetonated explosive, so it completely makes sense why this area would be restricted. In our number 4 spot today we have Morgan Island. This is a place that is also referred to as Monkey Island, and this is due to the colony of about 4,000 rhesus monkeys who call this place home. The thing is though, the monkeys aren't originally from this South Carolina island, they were actually relocated here from Puerto Rico. Basically, these monkeys were living in a sort of research center before moving to this island, but it was becoming overpopulated and some of the monkeys who carried infectious diseases were escaping, which posed quite a health and safety risk. This is when South Carolina stepped in and offered this uninhabited island as a place for these monkeys to go and continue to be researched. There are now laws that prohibit anyone from the island for both yours as well as the monkeys' safety. In our number 3 spot today we have Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is a privately owned campsite in Monterey in California and is the home to the wealthy and exclusive Bohemian Club. This club is only for some exclusive groups of men, despite the few dire attempts at including women. Every year there is a 2-week-long retreat that the club hosts on the private grounds, and while there have been 4 women who have been invited to the club as honorary members, the women are never invited to the Grove. Because of this weird ban and just the entire super strange nature of this whole ordeal, both the club and the Grove are part of many conspiracy theories. There has been no shortage of outsiders trying to sneak into the Grove to see what the heck is going on there and to see if they can get to the bottom of what this secretive club is really hiding. To be honest, there's definitely something sketchy going on with this whole thing, because it really just does give off like the weirdest vibes. They also have this weird club motto that says, quote, "Weaving spiders come not here." I'm not sure what that means, but it definitely sounds weird. Just a bunch of guys hanging out and no one else is allowed. I don't know, it's weird. Bohemian Grove has entered the chat. They're mad at me. In our number 2 spot today we have Metro 2. During the time where Stalin was in power, it is said that he instructed that an underground secret transport system would be built known as Metro 2. This mysterious underground system is said to connect different administrative institutions, and it's even rumored that it contains apartments and different technical rooms. It's sort of like a secret escape tunnel for high-level officials. Of course, it's completely blocked off to outsiders or the general public, and while the Moscow Metro administration denies that these tunnels even exist, there was an urban exploration group back in 1994 that claimed to have found the entrance. At this point in time, the existence of only one of the rumored 4 lines has been confirmed, and it is called D6. In our number 1 spot today we have the Fukushima exclusion zone. Back in 2011 there was the Fukushima nuclear disaster which struck Japan. Because of this horrible incident, residents located within 18 miles of the plant were urged to evacuate, similar to the Chernobyl nuclear disaster we talked about before. In fact, this meltdown and Chernobyl's are the only 2 events to receive a level 7 event classification on the International Nuclear Event Scale. Because of this extreme radiation contamination, no one is allowed to enter the premises. Of course, I can't see why anyone would want to, but there are people who want to take the risk. This includes a 27-year-old photographer who decided to illegally sneak into the Fukushima exclusion zone. He explained that it looked like a real-life version of Fallout.